Thanks so much for joining us for this conversation about public service loan forgiveness. And this program is a really important part of addressing student debt. And we know that for some people, no one likes student loans. For some people, student loans are a small price to pay for the opportunities of an education. I know that was true for me. But we also know that young people today are borrowing more. They're struggling to repay more. And in many cases, the fundamental concept of a student loan, that you go to college to earn more money and pay it back, is not always true. Some people don't complete or get a low-quality education, and some people choose to go into public service. And it's true for a lot of the young people that I meet on college campuses, that they want to give back to their families, their communities. They're inspired by a teacher or the need to help their cousins through college. And Congress created this program just to help young people just like the ones that I'm meeting today. And unfortunately, prior to Secretary Cardona's tenure, this program was long neglected. It was not well designed. It was not well implemented. Students would plan their careers around the expectation of loan relief, only to find out that they had spent years with the wrong type of loan or in the wrong repayment plan. And the department would say, sorry, you should have filed a form years ago. There's nothing we can do to help you now. So under the Secretary's leadership, we've made a lot of reforms to that program. We've taken the number of people receiving public service loan forgiveness from only 7,000 ever to now almost 1 million people. And it's really changing people's perceptions about what's possible for their careers and how they can manage their student debt. So really proud to work for Secretary Cardona and be a part of the effort to clean up the public service loan forgiveness and help many other people with student loans as well. So with that, I will turn things over to Secretary Cardona.
Thank you, James. Thank you. James is modest. He came in and cleaned up a mess. A mess. He leads our Office of Higher Education, for the entire department, and he worked previously in a policy shop in the White House and saw the mess that was made, and he came in with his team, and we worked to make sure that we fixed what was broken. The president was pretty clear. Higher education is not affordable, not accessible. Fix it. And one of the major areas that was broken was the public service loan forgiveness. It was passed in 2007. You would never think this. In 2007, it was passed in bipartisan fashion. It was pretty simple. We needed public servants in this country. And public service doesn't pay as much as the private sector. So, in bipartisan fashion, they said, if you work in public service for at least 10 years and you pay your loans, we're going to get rid of your loans. Pretty simple. 2007, do the math. 2017, loans should start being forgiven, right? 10 years passed. People paying their loans, working in public service. 98% of the people that applied in 2017 to 2021 were denied. There was a lot of nonsense. I think it was intentional, like, nope, we're not doing it. Bipartisan. 2017 to 2021, only 7,000 people got it in the whole country. In 3.5 years, he came in and fixed it. Welcome, Judy. He came in and fixed it. 947,000 and counting have gotten over $70 billion just in this program. And it's using what 2007 said we wanted to do, but breaking some of the nonsense that happened from 2017 to 2021. And that's what we're here to celebrate. Look, in Michigan, teachers start at about $40,000 a year. I say this respectfully, but what are you going to do with $40,000 a year? You're going to get another job, is what you're going to do. And we got to stop normalizing teachers driving Uber teachers bartending, teachers qualifying for state assistance. Like, when we talk about fighting for public education, we got to fight for our educators too. And that's what we're doing on this bus tour. That's what we're doing at the Department of Education. That's what the Biden-Harris team is doing. I mentioned to you $70 billion in relief, public service loan forgiveness. All total, about $170 billion dollars in debt relief for about 5 million folks across the country. And we're not done. We're going to be releasing a big plan soon that could capture up to 30 million people. But you know, as well as I do, that no matter what turn we take, we're going to find a lawsuit. We're going to find folks who are talking about cutting and doing this. We are advocating on behalf of those hardworking, working class folks who are trying to make our communities better. And we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop. So, you know, getting this done, I always say, and educators get this, a policy or a rule is only as good as the paper it's written on if you're not thinking about implementation. And the challenges with implementation. So you go from 2007 to 2017 with a policy, 2017 to 2021 intentional botching of it, and now you're saying in 2021 President Biden comes in, we're gonna provide debt forgiveness. People are like, yeah, right, I've heard this before. And then you might know that things in federal government don't always move as quickly as they should, right? So we needed partners in the field to operationalize this benefit that President Biden committed to fix. And Becky Pringle and her team, her army came out and said, we got you, because we got teachers that are working hard, that have hundreds of thousands in debt, that went on to invest in themselves, get a master's degree, continue with their education because they want to help children. And they're in debt. I've talked to teachers and who've told me their children sleep in walk-in closets because they don't have the money to get a bigger apartment. I've talked to teachers whose husband, who's handicapped, can't get into the bathtub because they don't have the money to fix their bathroom. Public servants for over 10, 15 years. So Becky and her army set up shop across the country. I always say the tentacles are long, the infrastructure's deep. But she knew the assignment and said, we're going to get this done. Our teachers deserve it. And let me tell you, it's been really impressive to see how this policy, the work that we're doing to clean up things, and there was a lot done. You know, I make it seem super simple, but there were a lot of waivers that had to be done. There was consolidation efforts. You know, there was forbearance that people were thrown into that we counted those months, and we're going to continue to do that to the extent that we can. But the implementation of it, we benefited so much in this country. Thanks to the leadership of Becky Pringle and the NEA, who really said, we got you. We're gonna make it comprehensible, we're gonna make it easy to do, and we're gonna train our folks to help teachers understand how to do it. So I wanna thank you, Becky, publicly, and I wanna turn it over to you to talk a little bit about what this means to you and the work that we're doing together.
So thank you, Mr. Secretary. It is an honor to join you again on this road trip. And I want to begin by, if you didn't notice already, pointing out the backdrop, fighting for public education. And when we went out to see the bus, the big bus, it just brought a smile to our faces. My fellow educator, the president of the Michigan Education Association, Chandra Matafari, is here with me, and we just started smiling. And the reason we started smiling is because the NEA's core work is promoting, protecting, and strengthening public education. Because our 3 million members believe that public education is the foundation of this, or honestly, any democracy. And that we have to reclaim it as the common good it is, but we can't stop there. Can't stop there. Because public education was never designed for people who look like me. So we have to transform it into a racially and socially just and equitable system that prepares every student, everyone, to succeed in a diverse and interdependent world. So when I saw that backdrop, Mr. Secretary, fighting for public education, and as I see it behind us, and for us to be talking about student loan forgiveness in the context of that, it's saying very loudly and clearly, for us to have great public schools, for our best, for all of our public schools, to have what our best public schools have, we know at the key of that are qualified caring teachers in every classroom in this country. Enough that actually where we're actually able to have class sizes so that we can address the individual needs of our students. So why do I bring that up in this context? Well, we know that we have an educator shortage in this country. And we know in attacking that educator shortage, by the way, it's chronic, it's not new. It's just was exacerbated by the pandemic because the pandemic made everything worse. But it's chronic, it's been going on. And so at the NEA, what we did was we surveyed our teachers and we listened to them. And we said, what would make you stay in the profession? What would make you encourage your students to go into the profession? And you know what they said. Number one, of course, the salaries have never been anywhere near reflecting the important work that teachers and other educators do in this society. But then they started talking about the crushing debt that they are still in. So, Mr. Secretary, I appreciate that you were more bold than James was, and I'm gonna go one step further. The mess that this administration found was intentional. Let us be clear. We just need to be clear, because nobody was fighting for public education and for educators, the people who have dedicated their lives. When you find a program where you have so many predatory lenders, where the students who have graduated are faithfully paying, and they end up owing more than what they took out, that's intentional. Somebody was making money. It certainly wasn't our teachers. Somebody was making money off of that system. Years after that promise was made, 2007, we finally had the Biden-Harris administration say, no, this is not okay. And our department is going to take it on. And one of the things that I so appreciate, Mr. Secretary, and the Department of Education's partnership in this is, they weren't going to be deterred. Not by a Supreme Court decision or anything. We're going to find a way, because we already have heard these incredible life-changing stories that allow teachers to stay in the profession, for them to start a family, to buy a house. So there weren't 5 of them living in an apartment together, or they just couldn't live where they worked. And so the department didn't stop. And one of the things that I so appreciate is that there is your understanding that none of us can do this alone. And so as they reached out to us and said, how can we help? How can we help promote the program? How can we help folks that don't know? We started a program called the Student Debt Navigator, and sent our members to neamb.com/savvy. So it's an online tool that our members can use, and they can begin the process right away. But what we learned is that they need help. So we provide one-on-one help for every single educator. We have 3 million, so that's a lot. That's a lot. We got a lot. We took on a lot, but we knew that we could not have educators who were not familiar with this program. And we needed them to be champions of this program. So you're going to hear from some folks today whose lives have been changed because of student loan forgiveness. And when that happens to you, you can't stop telling your story. And we need those stories told over and over again so we can support this program, we can grow this program, and we can make that difference. We can fight for public education in a way that every one of our students has what they need when they need it. And we know that most important thing is that teacher and that support staff in those classrooms and work sites to help them be able to live into their brilliance.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, in 2021, you know, when I first became secretary, one of the first meetings we talked about intentional collaboration. And these are the fruits of it, because the debt relief, the numbers that I talked about would not be possible had it not been for your leadership and your active participation and NEA's active participation in getting it done. So thank you for that. And, you know, James, again, I'm glad. James is usually in the office dealing with the lawsuits that are coming and how to get around them and how to stay true to the message and the intent of providing debt relief. So I'm glad we let him out of the office today to come, you know. Not all heroes wear capes, man. Some wear suits. But again, we want to go from talking about the policy to talking about the people, because for me, it's more important to talk about the people that represent the policies and the stories that reflect why these policies do matter. So we're going to get to that in a second. I want to say thank you to Grand Rapids Community College for having us here. I had a great conversation with Dr. Lepper, the president. He got us to sign up for an AI credential. I think we're gonna, so I don't know, Jason, maybe later you could just get our information and we could sign up for that class. You know, when I walk into the White House and say, yeah, I wanna talk about AI, now I have a credential, I might be listened to a little bit more. Really excited, beautiful place. I mean, this room, huh? This is fantastic. So thank you. I wanna thank Dean Jason Vincent also for being here. On behalf of the university, on the college, we're gonna go around and say hellos in a minute. But I wanna thank someone who's, while not at the table, instrumental in this work, the state president, Chandra Metaferi, who I met before, but saw this morning on the bus. The energy you bring, the leadership you show is why these programs work. So thank you for your leadership, and the whole NEA team from Michigan, thank you. I'd love to go around. We have a little bit of time to hear stories, so we're going to get into the stories. I have some questions. I'm going to facilitate a conversation. And it's always hard to facilitate a conversation when you're on a stage. So Jeremy, Ron, and Judy, I want you to know we're just hanging out in the teacher's lounge. We're just chilling. You know, forget the cameras. Forget that you're, because this is really about you. This is about your story, so we're going to get to that. But before we do that, let's go around the table really quickly. Please introduce yourselves to the folks on the table and the folks that are listening, who you are, what you do. And I know some of you are teachers. And then I'll get started into questions. Could we start with you, Jeremy?
Yep.
Thank
My
you.
name is Jeremy Zeiler. I work at Byron Center High School, and I am a high school special education teacher. So I deal with students with cognitive impairments in a self-contained classroom. I've been teaching this is my 19th year.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been a ride. It's been fun.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you for that work. Jason?
Morning, everyone. I'm Jason Vincent. I'm the Dean of Liberal Arts here at GRCC. This is the start of year 3 for me. Previous to that, I was an English professor for a very long time in South Florida and an administrator there as well.
Wow, great. You heard of him as the undersecretary, but you had a pretty big week with your little one.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
yeah.
true.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
I was telling the secretary before the event about my 3-year-old starting preschool. So it is definitely made very personal for me how important the teacher is, and we are lucky to have someone who is very well known for being caring, and she was texting us pictures throughout the first day, so it was hard for me to focus on work, but it was good to know he was playing, and he actually held another kid's hand when the other kid was crying. So
There you go.
this is gonna be okay. So, so that's what I'm going back to tonight, is checking in on my preschooler.
Yeah. And you know, Miguel, I too am my wife and I have become empty nesters this last couple weeks. So I have a freshman in college and my son's a junior in college. So, you know, when we talk about fighting for public education, my wife, who is also works in the school system, we're fighting for our kids' education as well. So it's personal for me.
So I'm Becky Pringle. I taught middle school science for 31 years before becoming an officer of the NEA, and I too am experiencing, like we do every year, the start of a new year, the opportunities, the hope, the joy, and all of that through the eyes of my grandchildren who go to, my granddaughter starts, she's a 5-year-old starting kindergarten today, so I'm waiting for the pictures. She's the cutest outfit. And my grandson starts today as well. He's turning 12 next week. And both of them attend the New York public school system, so we're all excited for the year.
That's exciting.
First, I want to thank everyone who was involved in putting this together, as well as including all of us on this. I think it's an extremely important issue, and I really appreciate everything. My name is Ron Denning, and I am a technology education teacher at Granville High School. This is my 24th year, all at Granville. I have a high school senior in Hudsonville, a sophomore, and a 5th grader. And my senior is wanting to attend Grand Valley State, so I'm going to be thinking about some of the financing with all of that coming up here. I'm also a proud member of the Granville Education Association, where I am the treasurer, and just excited to be in public education.
Awesome. Thank you, Ron. Thanks for being here. Hi, Judy.
Good morning. My name is Judy Warren, and I am a retired school social worker. Difficult decision to make because I knew how badly we needed school social workers in the schools. But I had to do it for personal reasons, dealing with some illnesses and whatnot. But I have 3 children, one of whom is currently a teacher in the Detroit area. And in that, so we need to keep the program going. I have 10 grandchildren. My baby is 7. The oldest is 23. And I have one that reside with me. So as much as I love what I do at this point in time, and I just retired this year, I had to step aside. But the need is great, and I appreciate very much what you did. That was, I needed it because I still carried debt as I was thinking about having to retire.
You know, that's a theme, Judy. I can't retire. I've heard people say, I kind of came to the realization that I'm going to have debt till I die. You know, that to me, I've heard that a lot. So why don't we kick off the next part of this? Just let's dive a little bit deeper. Judy, tell us a little bit about your story. First of all, why did you get into social work? What drew you to this? And then tell us a little bit about your debt relief situation, and just kind of let's peer a little bit deeper into your story, please.
Okay. Well, actually, as a young child, I had a lot of anger issues. My father died when I was 6, and I was angry and didn't know how to express what was going on with me. And I met a young lady who was a social worker, and we talked and we played games. Now, all the while playing games, you know, children learn through games. Sure. And at that time, I didn't realize what was happening, but the anger began to dissipate. And as I went through school, I thought, I want to do what that young lady does. However, with my background, my mom was a single parent, and you know, she made ends meet, but it was difficult. So I knew I needed to go to work. And I went to work and actually got married and had children before I actually went back to school. And I did eventually go back to school and went into social work. However, I worked for Star Commonwealth an adjudicated youth facility for a period of time as a social worker. And school social worker position came up. So it's a little bit different. However, you're still working with children, you're still working with issues, you know, social issues, learning issues, emotional issues. And I stayed in that realm. I loved working at Star, but eventually they were, you know, they closed that facility where adjudicated youths were. And so I became a school social worker and loved that. However, with the shortage, it was hard work, but it's good work. You realize that you're impacting children's lives, so you continue the work, and you work. And to a point where, you know, at this point, I needed to retire due to some health issues.
And you took on debt, you said, and you had debt relief?
I took on debt, and as you said earlier, I had to go through a period because my husband became disabled where we had to do a forbearance. And when I was able to start paying back, I was owing more than what my actual debt was. So I went through the process when this came about for loan forgiveness. And it was kind of a struggle, and I needed help, as you mentioned. And as a matter of fact, I got so frustrated for a whole year, I just stopped. Because it was too much, it was overwhelming. However, our local MEA in Kalamazoo, you know, got in touch with everybody. She reconnected with me and said, look, we've got to get this done. We have a certain amount of time to get this done, which motivated me to, you know, get back in there. And through that process, I had to consolidate loans and go through the process and receive the letters, and some of them saying I hadn't made enough payments, which I'd been paying since 1998, okay? And what year is this? So, you know, eventually it all worked out, and when I got that letter that said, congratulations, you know, when I got that letter, I was so excited. I called up everybody. And my girlfriend said, I haven't gotten my letter yet. I said, you're gonna get one. You're gonna get one. Because we both went back to school around the same time. And we both went through the process. And I carry this letter with me. It will be with me.
And written right there.
Oh, and written right here. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. It's funny because not all letters from the government are bad, right? So, what's the number? You got to share with us. You wrote it down in the front.
$45,962.46.
Thank goodness. That's amazing. Thank you. You know, like I said before, when you talk about policy, you got to talk about people. So you have grandchildren. You're at the point now where you retired. Your husband's disabled. Having that debt on your back wears you down. Wears you down. So when you got that letter, that was pretty significant. That was life-changing for you.
It was.
Yeah.
I was elated,
Yeah.
to say the least, because you know, that's an extra bill that I would have to be paying with, you know, on a retirement budget. And so that was extremely helpful.
Yeah.
And it was like a weight off of my back.
Yes, good. And you know, again, 2007, bipartisan fashion, just wasn't implemented, and intentionally obstacles were being put up. But thanks to not only the fixes and some of the consolidation work that was done, and then the implementation support from NEA, I'm so happy to hear that. And two things I heard that I want to mention from your story: runaway debt is crazy. I talk to people who, you know, in communities where people are economically disadvantaged, they get hurt the most because they have to borrow the full amount. So they owe way more later. And sometimes they're just paying off the interest and not even touching the principal. So we call that runaway debt. And you mentioned also that the process was taking long and you had this form to fill out and it's complicated and we lose people in the process. Two things that are a part of the work. Remember I told you we got another plan coming out? Two parts of that plan are going to address that. One of them is to go after the runaway interest. And the second part is instead of you filling stuff out, we come to you to simplify that process. So when we talk about regulations coming out, these are the things that we heard from you, and we're fixing it again, and we're making it simpler. Now, you know we're going to get challenged. You know they're going to sue. They're going to try to stop it. But sometimes you hear a quick mention, the United States Department of Education came out with a plan to do new regulations, and the lawsuit is going to stop it. When we talk about regulations, what does that mean? It means that instead of you taking a year to fill out paperwork to get debt relief that you have earned, we're going to simplify. We're going to come to you instead. And when we're attacking runaway interest that nobody talks about, we normalize the fact that interest now is more than the actual loan you took out 20, 30 years ago. We're attacking that. When we talk about regulations, that's what we're attacking. And that's what we're being stopped when you see that these lawsuits come out. I want to make it make sense. And I want you to understand two things that she talked about: runaway interest and the difficulty in accessing something, a benefit that she's owed because she was a public servant for over 10 years and she's served and paid her loans. I just want to try to connect her story with where we're going because we're not done. I'm going to turn over here now. Jeremy, good. So you special education in high school, man.
Yeah.
Wow, you must have amazing experiences. Hard work, but it's like a gift, man.
Yeah.
It's like a gift. My daughter's thinking about special education, and she's going to college for that because she's had experiences where, similar to the students you serve, she's had an opportunity to work with students that it's amazing. She's so excited about that and looking forward to it. Tell us a little bit about yourself, about your loan story, and then I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So I went to school in a rural community in southern Michigan. And I still remember one of the reasons I went into special education is because the kids in our school that had special needs were always down the hallway, in the dark hallway, off to the corner. You never really saw them. And if you saw them, it was an anomaly, like, whoa. And so one day, I was a junior in high school, and there was a couple of kids sitting at a table. And we all went over, a group of us went over and sat with them. That's all it took. And I still remember that Robert and Andy were their names. And sat with them and became really good friends with them, amazing people. And then I went to Grand Valley State and got my bachelor's for special education. And then endorsement-wise, you had to choose. So you had to choose like a cognitive impairment or an emotional impairment endorsement to get your bachelor's, or you could choose a learning disabilities endorsement. But that was a master's degree, required master's. And so I went with the learning disabled route. And so that was right in after my bachelor's degree, went right into my master's. And so did my debt. And so, needless to say, after my journey through Grand Valley State, which was excellent, I came out of that right around just under $90,000 for my education. And starting in Byron, it was a little hard to pay for that stuff. And so come around 2010, we started talking about the public service loan forgiveness program, and I thought I was good, and then I called and they said, oh, yeah, you're on the wrong plan. You're on the standard repayment plan. Those don't count toward your months. And I paid for a couple of years on that. I was like, wow. And so you have to be on the income-based plan. And so they moved me over to the income-based plan, but then it restarted my payments at your months of 120 months. And that was rough. Because I knew that, okay, that's gonna put me in the 2020s before I'm even eligible. And so it was really difficult to try to make that payment every month, along with starting a family and having a house and having children. And when the pandemic hit, I was really worried because at that time they were switching over to a different lender, and I was afraid that it was gonna just get pushed under the rug, like I wasn't gonna get it, you know? And with you, St. Judy, I got the letter in the mail. Actually, it was an email, and I was like, what? I'm showing zeros on this? What is this? And I printed it out 19 times, and I saved it like 14 times on my computer because I was like, I don't understand this. And it was a great day for that. Speaking of numbers, the number that was forgiven was $76,960. That was forgiven. But what I found was very interesting is on that interest aspect is that, you know, I owed under 90, and I paid for 12 years on this loan, and I still owed $76,000. And it was just, that was huge, because I was like, how do I still owe so much money? And I'm gonna be in retirement, I'm gonna be in debt until I retire from school, from my position. And at that time, we were going through, you know, the pandemic, and then you have life hit you, you know. My truck went down. I mean, I had a 2004, you know, truck that frame rusted out. Thank you, Michigan. And so had to find a new vehicle. Well, you know, new vehicles were just about the same as a used vehicle. And it's like, how am I gonna pay for a vehicle payment plus a student loan payment plus a house payment plus all the others? And I was really considering, man, I'm gonna have to get a second job. Like, I'm gonna have to find something after I put in 7 hours at school plus lesson planning plus all the extras that come after your hours at school. And I'm gonna have to go get another job on the weekends or something to pay for this loan that's gonna come at me when they start having payments come back. And I was very worried about that because, you know, in my family, we've always put family over money. You know, family's more important than making money. And thinking about that, like, I'm gonna have to get a weekend job, or I'm gonna have to get a evening job, and that's time taken away from my family. That's the time taken away from my kids that are, you know, 12. Well, they're 12 and 9 right now. At that time, they were younger, but I wouldn't want to do that. That's the time that I want to spend with my kids. And so that was realizing that when that happened, when that loan was forgiven, you opened up the opportunity for me to spend more time with my family and not having to get a second, third job, or having my wife get a second, you know, job. So for me, it was life-changing in that aspect.
That's powerful, man. And I love, again, another example of, you know, when you put people with these policies, you get to see, you got a master's degree, advanced degree, okay? Educator salaries on average in this country are 25% less than people with similar degrees in other professions, okay? You chose public service. I love your story about why you got into teaching too. You know, those stories are out there. You want to make your community better. You got the master's degree. It's not like you can't take overtime shifts.
Right.
Maybe that's something we should do. We'll talk. You can't, you know, you got a master's degree. I said it intentionally in the beginning. Starting salary in Michigan is 40 G's. You got debt, 90,000. So when people say, well, you know, I paid my college, you know what? Master's degree, and shadow, if you're wondering, oh, you can just get another job. Shadow a teacher for a week if you're not an educator. See how you're feeling about getting up Saturday morning to go get another job. It's intense. It's really a very intense. You're with the students, then you're planning, and that's part of the salary. So then we wonder why we have a teacher shortage in this country. We don't have a teacher shortage. We have a symptom of a teacher respect issue. So what we're trying to do is level the playing field by saying, you know what? work 10 years, we're going to provide debt relief. And you're an example, Jeremy, of why we're doing this. You're a perfect example of why. And I'm thankful that you're able to spend time with your children. I'm thankful that you're able to spend time with your family, because you need to recharge, because you need to be all in on Monday morning when you go see your students. You know what I'm saying? So another great example of why this matters and why President Biden said, we're going to do this. And I was telling James, yes, I do believe 17 to 21, it was intentionally blocked, but you started in 2010 and you were told it didn't work. So this has been ongoing. This has been ongoing. So, President Biden, Vice President Harris said, we're going to fix this. And I'm thankful that you're an example of that. And how much did you say it was?
I was $76,960.
Since you printed 19 copies, maybe I'll have a copy. We'll take it back to the office. Show the staff that's working on
I
this.
looked at it last night. I'm like, okay, there it is.
That's awesome.
On my email.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Let me turn over to Ron now. I know Ron, high school teacher, 24 years in the same, you're part of that community.
Absolutely.
You're part of that community. And you said you have a child that's thinking about teaching too, or thinking about?
Not education, but wants to go to Grand Valley State
Wants to go-
University, so
okay,
we have
good,
that on the
good.
horizon.
Tell us a little bit about your story, please.
So I grew up in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, Stevenson High School, go Eagles, in Menominee County, and it's a rural community. A lot of factory workers and people in the logging industry. I have a lot of great friends that are in those industries, and it's fantastic. I had, like a lot of you, I had some amazing teachers, and I wanted to give back in that same way that they gave to me. So I wanted to go into education. Now, my parents never really had a lot of money. It was always a struggle all the time. We went hunting not for the sport, but because we needed the meat. That's why we went fishing, that sort of thing. They were always extremely supportive of me in everything I wanted to do and what I wanted to accomplish. But their kind of style wasn't really there to push me, like maybe like I might be with my own children, like you have a test coming up this Friday, that sort of thing. And I'm not saying that as faulting them, that just was what it was. So when I wanted to go into public education, wanted to be a teacher, it was on me, everything. Getting up at 5 a.m. to drive to Escanaba to take the ACT, an hour drive, an hour ahead. As well, all of those little things, and including how am I going to pay for school? So as I went through college at Western Michigan University, the debt started building up. And I remember hearing, I had this kind of mindset, well, that's okay because it's good debt is one of the phrases that I heard. And I, looking back, I don't really like that, but it was what I heard. It's good debt. So, okay. So they have this built up. I'll take care of it later, and everything. I graduated, started teaching at Granville High School, and shortly right after that, I met my wife and got married. And I remember our weekly food budget was $50, and granted that was 20 years ago, but think about $50 a week, and then what was my student loan payment comparatively? And you talk about what the starting salary is now on average. Forget the exact amount, but I remember it was in the 30s where I started. And those of you that are familiar with not just education, but any really field, it's closes in on close to half of what that is after everything is taken out, not just taxes and everything, but you have your retirement, you have your health care, things like that. So, what was that actual beginning salary? And then I had this incredible debt that was there. And it was just something I was going to live with. Like a lot of people, it was, I was always going to have it. I'll always pay on it, but it'll probably be there till the day I die, and, it'll have to get figured out after that. So I did, of course, then, I think my mother-in-law actually, she would kind of let me know about the program. I was unaware of it. So I looked into it, and I put an application for it and everything. And I remember initially getting like a letter that said, it was kind of similar, all these payments don't quite count towards it. Mm-hmm. But then a little after that, I remember getting a notification that they were looking into that. And then that was all changed. One thing I do want to mention I forgot is that, I talked about the debt that I had to take on because of my family situation as I was growing up. It was the reality is just what it was. I wanted to get it. Didn't want to have the same struggles that my parents had. Right. And then, so there's a lot of families that are like that. You want to improve your situation. You want to improve your life. Everyone has different situations. My parents' situation was one thing, but I wanted to make those improvements, but that meant being just saddled with this debt. And my wife, different situation, and I'm not saying this is a fault. I am so grateful of the situation she had where she graduated from Hope College, 2.5 years, and the little bit of debt she had left, her parents took care of it. So grateful for that. Not the same situation that I had. So I think about that, and a lot of families in the country that want to get ahead out of their situation that they grew up with, and they're put right back into another situation.
Yeah, that's powerful. How much debt relief did you receive?
It was just shy of $57,000.
That's fantastic, man. Then congratulations to you. So thank you for that story, Ron. And Ron I love that piece at the end, that your wife was fortunate to have that, and power to her.
Yep.
You weren't. You grew up in poverty. Think about the haves and the have-nots in this country, not because of intellect, but because they just don't have the resources. These monthly payments have gotten out of control. We introduced the SAVE plan. You know where I'm going with this. Because President Biden said, instead of 10% of your income going toward college loans, 5%, so that we don't have the million defaults every year. So we don't have the stories of Ron saying, I'm going to go into default, I can't do it. Or we don't have high school kids saying, I have the intelligence, but I can't afford those payments. I'm not going to college. Because that's what's happening in our country. So we said the SAVE plan will cut it down in half to make the monthly payments more affordable. We're excited about that. More kids have the opportunity now to go to college and be successful paying off their loans. The courts just stopped it. The courts just stopped that plan. So we're going to appeal it. We're going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. But that's what I'm talking about. When I say we push it out, we get blocked. A plan that someone like Ron would have benefited from, where you could pay manageable monthly payments, not go into default, not go into bankruptcy, not have to leave the profession. You follow? But I'm thankful that you qualify for public service loan forgiveness. So you don't have to worry about that at all. That's our job to worry about now, to get it back up and running. But Ron, thank you for your story. Judy, thank you for your story. Jeremy, thank you for your story. You represent what it is that President Biden and Vice President Harris set out to do when they said we're going to make higher education more affordable, more accessible. And debt relief is a fraction of the work that's happening with regard to accessibility and affordability. And so I want to thank the three of you. I want to thank Jason also for representing the school here. We're not, this stop today was talk about public service loan forgiveness, but another area that President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Dr. Biden, I got to throw her name in there because she teaches at a two-year school, is lifting up community college. They are the backbone of our economic development in this country and in Michigan. And the more we support our community colleges and the programs that drive, that are driven by the industry needs, the more we're going to provide opportunities for students. And another way that we're making higher education more affordable and more accessible is providing pathways to students. And GRCC does an amazing job connecting those dots and giving students opportunities for high skill, high paying careers where you might not need a 4-year degree, but the salaries in those places, I'm not even going to mention it because I already mentioned the teacher starting salary. I don't want to contribute to the shortage. But we have to do better for teacher salaries, but there are options for students thanks to great schools like GRCC. I want to thank you again, President Pringle and your team, the NEA, who's really translated wonderful policy into opportunity for your members, and that's what good unions do.
they take care of their members, and you've done that across the country. And James, I always say he's the wizard behind the curtain, figuring out how we're going to be able to do this. I'm really thrilled that you get to hear from folks directly, to see the people behind the policy. So thank you very much. We're going to keep fighting. We're not going to stop. We're going to keep fighting. We're fighting for public education. Part of that is public service loan forgiveness, to make sure that we have a highly qualified, supported teacher in every classroom in this country. Our kids will not grow if we don't invest in our educators and invest in our schools. Thank you for being here. Thank you. I want a selfie with that letter with you. Oh, okay. Why don't you come on over here?